So Galina, I've read a lot in your blog about this idea of the filter, this thing that we carry within us, a lot due to our culture, due to colonization, for all various sorts of reasons, that ends up just coming in between us and actual reality, these projections we put on everything. I was just interested if you could talk a little bit to that and what you think a remedy is for that.
I think that it's pervasive in our world. I think that it has given us such wonderful ideas as the doctrine of discovery. I think that it gave us monotheism. I think that it is sentient, and I think that it is tremendously evil and destructive. And I think it's contagious. And I think that each and every one of us is tasked with fighting it. We may never be able to destroy it, not in our lifetimes, but we can hold the line so it gains no further purchase. This is a war where there are no non-combatants. There's no sitting this one out. You are either fighting the filter or you are collaborating with it by your actions and your non-action. And anyone who is God-owned, anyone who has a devotion to any deity, anyone who wants to live an involved, engaged, organic spiritual life has a moral obligation to stand the fuck up and fight. And how we fight will be very different. Some of us may teach, some of us may lecture, some of us may write, some of us may go out and stage protests. I believe the antidote to the filter is honoring and engaging with your ancestors. I do not believe that this thing, this ancient sentience, has any purchase through the wisdom of our dead. And that's why ancestor veneration was one of the first things the monotheisms under its thumb banned. Do you want to chime in?
The filter is completely pervasive. It's so imprinted and inculcated by society and reinforced that we don't even look and think about the framework and the paradigms through which, the lenses through which we see the world. And everyone sees the world through a lens or with a perspective. Human beings are fundamentally subjective creatures. So we all are coming from a framework and a viewpoint. And until we realize that we're coming from a framework and a viewpoint, and we begin to question, what is that viewpoint? And did I even agree to have this viewpoint? Or am I just parroting and saying, thank you very much. Thanks for fucking my brain. I'll continue to fuck it myself now. Thank you. We don't ask, what have we gotten from society? Does it work for us? Does it not work for us? We're just taking this mindset and it's just being downloaded like little mechanical minds.
Because our entire society is infested with this, and it has been for generations. Our entire society, our entire world is bearing the brunt of a global infestation by this malignancy. And we are tasked. I firmly believe that we are tasked with fighting it. Mm. And that is certainly what House Sankofa stands for, and it will fight back. Make no mistake. It is cunning, it is canny, it is like a cancer that will use anything that is thrown at it, and it will fight back. But this is the sacred work that we do. With every breath, with every action, we're looking it in the eye and we are taking the fight to it.
I love what you said in one of your ancestor workshops, Laura, how having our ancestor practice and having a sense of our lineage, of where we come from, does not allow us to just be steamrolled by this.
When people lie to us and try and define for us who we are, if you're isolated and you're disconnected from your ancestors, you're disconnected from your traditions, you're disconnected from your community, and you're disconnected from your gods,
or any kind of authentic
or
life.
any authentic life, then it's easy for people to lie to you. When you are standing in your power and you know who you are and you have your traditions intact and you know your ancestors and you know whose shoulders you are standing on and you know that they paid the price for you and you are paid for, you know that you are, and you know who you are, you know who they are, you know that they are running through your veins, you know that you are the sum total of all the hopes, dreams, and aspirations of your ancestral line. You are your ancestors walking, so stand the fuck up and be proud. And if somebody steps to you and tries to tell you that you are less than because of who you love, the color of your skin, who you sleep with, how many partners you have, what your religion is, then you can look at them right in the eye and you can tell them, you are a liar. And I know who I am, and I remember who my ancestors are, so don't even try to talk to me that way, because they won't be able to lie to you, and you won't lie to yourself and accept their judgmental bullshit, because you will know who you are. You'll be standing in your truth, and when you are standing in your truth, no other man can tell you that you're a slave.
Amen.
Amen. And when we make furebale, when we go down in prostration before the powers, before the gods and before the ancestors, 10,000 generations of our dead go down with us. And that is a force through which the filter cannot reach.
Look at the things that, like, it does not like. Look at the things when monotheism, with that specific mindset, the issue being not any one particular deity, but the mindset that there is one true way, there is one true authority. You don't hold it, somebody else does. They're going to define your spirituality for you. They're going to tell you how to do it. They're going to tell you how to do it right. They're going to be like, baby, you can do it. Take your time, do it right, do it my way, or I will kill you tonight. And that is what they're going to tell you, because you're going to do it my way or the highway, or you're done. So that kind of spiritual authoritarianism, some of the first things that it used to subvert and weaken the people so that they could be dominated and they could be made sheeple, was 1, get rid of their ancestor cultists. 2, screw up their indigenous tribal ways.
Make them afraid.
Make them afraid. Use fear. Manipulate them. And also, let's make an evil out of sex. Let's introduce the concept of sex is sinful. Why is that? Because anything primal, anything that is right here, anything that they can't control or keep in a narrow little box, it's hard to keep lust in a box. It is hard to keep devotion in a box. Anything that legitimately connects you on a gut level and makes you feel and makes you alive and makes you authentic and makes you know your power, including sex, they want to take that off the table, because they would rather have you shut your eyes, lay back, and think of England. Well, honey, I don't want to shut my eyes and think of England. I would like to open my eyes and experience life. And you know what? They want to define that. They want to take all the power out of what is powerful. That's why they don't like animal sacrifice. That's why they don't like blood. That's why they don't like sex. They're terrified. Blood and pussies and cocks. Oh my God, we gotta fuck the filter. That's what you gotta do. Go take it right in hand. Fuck the filter. And then give an offering to your ancestors. And they'll applaud you and they will say, rock on.
I can add nothing to that.
No.
Brava.
Could one of you talk about a moment when you identified the filter within yourself and then proceeded to deconstruct it?
Oh God, that's brilliant. Go ahead. I can't.
I had been told, my ancestors took me in hand and started pulling it apart well before I was aware of what that was what was going on. And there's actually a moment for me that is so incredibly silly. Mm-hmm. But I was participating in a conference, and there were a bunch of us speaking on indigeneity and ancestors. Mm-hmm. And it got very, very heated during the prep work for the conference. And many of one of the other presenters accused us of
persecuting
white people. And I said, well, you're speaking from a position of white privilege. And I just said it because I saw it, and I thought it was very, very clear that how could they not see it? And apparently this is a third rail, and I pissed on it. Mm-hmm. And the fallout from that took me to a place where my gods were able to take me in hand, and it's like they held me over the abyss, and they said, look at the filter. Look at this thing you fight. Look at it. And I saw it. And I saw how deeply ingrained it was in our world.
Yeah. And the thing to keep in mind is there's no monopoly on this. This is an ancient enemy that is constantly infecting things. And so, you can't scapegoat any political group, any race, any religion. It's infected them and it's corrupted them and it's used them for its purposes. But Christians aren't the enemy, white people aren't the enemy,
No.
brown people aren't the enemy, political systems aren't the enemy.
The filter is the enemy.
And it will use them for its purposes.
And they don't know they're being used.
And anything that tries to make you feel small and powerless and cut off from, everything, that's the enemy. And that's what you have to fight against.
Yeah.
And I hope that everybody that hears this will wake up and do their part, however small, however big, whatever you can do, fight it.
Yeah. And be aware it will fight back. And it will strike you where you're most vulnerable. If you are insecure about your relationship with your gods, it will strike there. If you have a fracture in a relationship in your life, it will strike there.
If you're insecure about your sexuality, that's where it will target you.
It will target.
It will strike wherever you give it an opening. This thing is alive. It is an ancient enemy, which is what my ancestors call it, actually, that has no name before the gods. It is a thing that has been here since before our ancestors were. And it is our job to fight it. And even if we don't think that there is any way at all that we can defeat it and tear it down and restore balance to this world, we can at least draw a line in the sand with our bodies, with our hearts, with our minds, our spirits, and say this far and no fucking further.
It wants us disconnected. Yeah, it wants us disconnected. It wants us in a little box, not thinking too much, numb, disconnected, isolated, and weak. Because then we're nothing but food.
Yep.
Then we're there to be used. Then we're there to be exploited. It wants us to believe the lie that we have no agency, that we have no power, that we have no choice.
That we are alone.
Yep. And I mean, people have been raising the call against this for ages and ages. I mean, like read, D.H. Lawrence and Philip K. Dick and
read John
Robert
Trudell.
Harlan. Yeah. All these people have been calling this out, and it's the same message, and it needs to be heard.
And you can all do something. If you pour out an offering to your ancestors and you engage with them consistently, even if you think you're stumbling at it, you are doing something radical. You are doing something powerful, and you are spitting in the eye of the filter that destroyed and subjugated your ancestors too.
And any time that you root out fear and complacency and smallness, that's a step in the right direction.
Asking questions.
No,
questioning authority. Not just taking the pat answers. Looking at it. Why do I hold the beliefs that I hold? Examining them and owning them. You may end up believing the same things that your parents taught you, but examine them. Question why. We've been taught not to question. In some instances, we've been taught it's a sin to question the authority. Well, we need to question. We need to understand. We need to know. And we need to understand the indoctrination that we all have experienced. And then we can decide. If then we decide for ourselves that we like the indoctrination, we can keep it if it works for us. But then at least we have made a conscious choice. Yeah. But too many people completely unthinking. They don't even question why they have the worldview and the perspective that they do.
Or how that culture shapes
how did
desires,
culture shape
their thoughts,
it? Exactly.
And like Socrates said, the unexamined life isn't worth living.
And I will say something else. Contemporary American heathenry, as large swaths of it stand today, is lock, stock, and barrel a tool of the filter. It is locked down and contaminated. It doesn't have to be. Everyone listening to this can change that situation. But you have to be willing to engage and to feel and to get messy.